welcome to this live webinar. Running a bit late today. I think our system's caught a bit of a virus, and anyway, here we are for today's episode of webinar for living and working abroad. We're featuring our new series, World War C, Coping with Corona. So there's a virus epidemic which has brought about an economic lockdown, impacting expat family and business especially hard, as there's no travel and making cross-border trade and lifestyle and holidays and managing overseas properties are difficult for everybody. So in the context of expats, we want to look today through our World War C, Coping with Corona series, what are the opportunities that are open to expats going forward, and what should we do about those, and more importantly, where will the money come from to continue with our lifestyle going forward? A bit of a strange question, but it's not, because money makes the world go round, and if we don't have consumers, then a business can't function. Consumers are businesses who've received cash from sales, and employees who've received income from their work with the business, or pensioners or investors who received income from assets they've accumulated from their previous business and work as employees. So money does make the world go round, and how are we going to progress and go forward? So with the economic shutdown for between 3 weeks and 3 months, that will bring a recession about. Of that, there's no doubt. An economic recession is when economic activity falls for 2 quarters in a row. It's almost certainly going to do that, given that we've got a complete shutdown. And even when the restrictions are lifted, it'll be a time and a place and a pace for the individual people to get confidence in what's happening and how they can get back out there and experience their lives. So there's multifaceted, and what we want to just do is do a general discussion today that we can open up. So if you've got any questions, give them to us, and we'll answer them through our Living and Working Abroad page or Living and Working Abroad group. But what we need to understand, if we're a business, is how are things going to change? Now, with all the lockdown, people are learning how to work online, how to communicate online, how to spend less time commuting in a car, less time doing their work, if they can work entirely electronically without having to print and produce paper, without the boss waffling in meetings, and without unproductive meetings at work, then they can get their job done in less time. So how will those people, those employees, react to that? Will they, as consumers, then have more time and more availability, or will the business opportunities going forward allow people to provide more services, more personal services for the free time, more entertainment services, or will specialist services for business to operate in this new environment, will they become more important? So those are the issues that a business needs to adopt. But for an expat living or working abroad, the same is true. If your lifestyle is spent living between a holiday home and your home country and visiting family and friends in third countries, then all that's changed as well, because those travel restrictions mean that you can't carry on that lifestyle. If you're retired to southern Europe, to Cyprus, Greece or Spain or Portugal, that lifestyle might not be sustainable or valid in your new perception of your new world, with respect to your children, your family, your work. So you need to consider that. So somebody could be a European consultant of a business, and they can be based anywhere in Europe. But now we've got the travel restrictions. That work can be done online, but it can't be done by moving around so much. So where are we going to be based, and how are you going to be treated for that? So these are considerations to consider. So a business needs to consider and start considering now, what are the costs and the changes it needs to make in terms of its cost base, in terms of its strategy, how it's going to reorganise its staff when it comes back, and what work is it going to do. For any help and guidance on that reorganisation, that step forward, you contact us at proactpartnership.com. Expats will also want to protect their assets, protect their property assets, protect their families in the event that they're not able to deal with them locally. So you may need local services to provide administrative and control of your assets locally, to help those continue to generate revenue and be secure in the event of death or disability or inability to travel, as we've got now. So those are issues to bear in mind. So this last week we've seen that the IMF have come forward to say that they're going to provide funds. The IMF is the International Monetary Fund, the bank of countries, and they provide countries in trouble with funds to tide them over hard times. And the USA are the main guarantor and benefactor and provider of funds for that. And they've come forward already with a $2 trillion support fund during this period, which, although it's for the USA, actually includes significant new guarantees for the IMF to allow them to provide extra funding around the world for countries that are going to be hard pressed. Now that's important in two ways. One is that it provides the funds that are going to trickle down in terms of tax, business support and grants to individuals, employees and businesses. And second is that it will open up more vulnerable countries and allow them less likelihood of being closed down. So if you want to continue to travel the globe and see remoter places, and not have a virus pandemic that's going to drag on for 5 or 10 years, to get that under control, then we need the IMF to keep those countries stable, growing and viable. We saw after World War One the social changes that came about from that, but we also saw from the Irish potato famine in 1845, where the Irish population actually went down by 25% due to death, but then migration and just a breakup of the whole wrath of the country, just because of a virus that affected the food stock. So these things have happened in the past and they're happening now, and we have to consider in World War C what the true implication of that is. Because until there's a vaccine introduced, we've got vaccines for flu and measles and smallpox, until the vaccine is introduced for COVID, which might take them a couple of years, then countries are not going to be confident to freely let people wander in and out and potentially bring an infection to their shores, especially if they haven't got the resources to help it in their communities. So it's big issues and big questions to be answered for that. It's not that COVID is necessarily a killer or that there aren't other killer diseases out there. It's the fact that it's a new disease to human beings that's causing the problem. The American Centre for Control of Disease just released statistics showing that from October 19 to March 20, they estimated somewhere between 40 and 55 million Americans have had seasonal flu. And of those, between 40 and 65,000 have died. 24 and 65,000 have died. That's a big variation, but a lot of people, up to 55 million people have had seasonal flu in America, and up to 65,000 is dying. That's a lot of people, but flu is not that deadly, and it's known, and it's assessed, and it's a liability each year. So each year people die, and one of the causes that can bring along an end-of-life situation is a seasonal flu. COVID so far has got 470,000 recorded cases in America, and it's killed 16,000 people. So nowhere near the potential 65,000 flu victims in America, but between 1.5 and 4 times the death rate of a flu virus. So that is the concern about it, is that the death rate is so much higher. So we have to treat this new disease with caution, and that caution will be exercised by countries around the world. And given that we're in this situation, we've got the lockdown now, it's going to take time to recover. And your business, your family has to do that. And the IMF have got the funds now to provide the countries to allow people to get the financial support they need to move forward. And if the system moves perfectly without corruption and people siphoning off their profits to get rich quick, then potentially by the end of 2020, the IMF believes the world economy could be moving out of recession. So we could have we'll have 1 or 2, maybe 3 quarters of recession, but by 2021 the economy is back and rock and rolling into a full season. It's naive to try and think that the lockdown will end and suddenly everything will be back to normal. It won't, because there'll be cautions among government, among communities, among individuals on how to get back and how to get working effectively. And that means that the recession will progress for a varied amount of time. And then when the consumers come back, be they businesses or employees, what habits have changed and what are the demands that have changed. In World War One, we saw the difference between 1910 and 1920 was that a horse was the main method of transport in 1910, and the motor vehicle, motor engine, cars and lorries were the main mode of transport in 1920. Before the Second and First World War, the plane came of age from being a hobby local thing. Suddenly international flight between America and Europe was possible, and the world opened up as a result to the global travel that we knew before the COVID crisis. So the potential in World War C to have the same sort of dramatic social changes, and we don't know what they are, we don't know how they're going to unfold, but you can actually look forward and anticipate with your business. Any business that is locked into old ways and old habits that are not necessarily those that technology allow us to do today, they're unlikely to survive. So we need to look at your business, look at your costs, look at your organisation and how you run your business, and see how you need to adapt that. It doesn't stop you doing business online, communicating with staff and customers online, and as we train each other up as customers and employees to do that, that'll become more the norm, giving the consumers more free time to then consume and buy products and services in a different way. More restaurant time, more beach time, more travel time, depending upon the circumstances. So the world will change, and we need to have a look at what that's going to do and how that's going to affect your business and your lifestyle. When we're able to freely travel again, are your assets protected abroad? How will your business need to adjust and adapt its ways? On the tax side, the money's coming down from the IMF are quite varied. So VAT referrals are quite common throughout Europe for businesses. If you're not clear on what that means, you need to contact us and talk that one through. We're going to produce a tax handout, a download from our website next week, which shows the changes and to tax deadlines and tax payment deadlines for expat family and business around Europe. So we'll do that summary, and that'll be available from our website at proactpartnership.com next week. But generally, VAT deferrals are a way. Business need to be careful, because obviously holding onto that VAT money, it's a tax you've got to pay, and you've still got to pay it. So it's free money, but if you spend it and then you've got no more money to pay it back, that becomes an issue. So it's cash flow, but don't lose it all is the key thing there. The VAT needs to be paid. The second issue at hand is to consider what you will be doing in terms of tax payments, income tax, rental taxes, savings taxes have all been deferred. So there's potential different countries got different periods of deferral for the payment of that tax. The tax will still be due, but it will be deferred. Self-employed people in the UK can apply for a grant. It's free money, but it is taxable income. So if a self-employed business had an impact, they could get up to 50,000 to support their business this year, but that is taxable income to be paid next year. So it can replace lost income now, but it's not going to replace, the tax will still need to be paid going forward. So that's something to consider, and if you need any help in that sort of application, contact us at proactpartnership.com. There's also social insurance benefits, so the governments are offering to support the payroll of a business, so the business can apply for the staff's wages to be paid directly to them or through their pay-as-you-earn system, and that allows the jobs to be kept open and the employees to continue to receive income to be able to sustain their lifestyle as consumers going forward. So if your business needs help setting those schemes up, contact us again. And there can also be that if you do lose your job and you do need support and you've been paying social insurance, then there's opportunities to accelerate and shortcut the system to get support for your family and your business as your self-employed business or your employment has finished early. So consider how you can get help on that. So there's lots of things to do today to get the cash that's been released into the system to minimise the impact of the economic lockdown, to minimise the period of the recession going forward, and to allow the landscape to open up, to resume our lifestyles. But they are going to change, and so we can't assume that everything will be the same. We'll have individual changes in perspective of how we want to live our life. Businesses will reorganise how they organise and run their businesses. The products and services that are attractive to clients will be different in different amounts, and how to judge what the opportunities are available for you. Those opportunities are there, they're likely to come on stream quite quickly, as long as we can get free of the virus lockdown, that it's not as deadly, zombie, apocalyptic now environment that some would imagine that we could be in, and that we can move forward and in 2021 have a prosperous year ahead, getting through using the financial support. So any help on that tax, business reorganisation, protecting the assets for expats living and working abroad, contact us at proactpartnership.com, and look out for our guide to changes to tax return deadlines and tax payment deferrals that are available at our website next week. One last point I would just say is that generally tax returns still need to be done on time. So again, if you're restricted through location or travel or facilities to do that, we can help you do those returns online and keep the returns up to date. Contact us at proactpartnership.com for more information. Otherwise, we'll see you again next time.